Hi, I'm Geneva Long, CEO of Bowlus, and today I'm honored to take you on a walkthrough of the most iconic travel trailer ever built, the 1935 Bowlus. This particular Bowlus Road Chief is incredibly special to me. It's been in my family for decades, and we lovingly restored it by hand. It was our first road trip in this very trailer that inspired the revival of the Bowlus brand. This is more than a travel trailer. It's the origin of luxury land travel and the beginning of my journey with Bowlus. But before we get started into this Bowlus, I think it's important to understand how meaningful it is, both when it was built over 90 years ago, and to do that, I need to take you back into life in the 1930s. When you imagine 1935, think about this. America was in the depths of the Great Depression. Travel, leisure, that was for the elite few. Most Americans were scraping by, not planning weekend adventures. While Yellowstone, Yosemite, and Sequoia had become national parks much earlier, lodges in them were only finished in the late 1920s. American tourism was only beginning. The Great Depression had changed everything. Families lived frugally, scraping together savings and coffee tins, and rarely, if ever, took time for leisure. Now think about what camping or road travel looked like. Most American homes didn't have indoor plumbing, and not just in rural areas and cities too. Heating was often from a wood stove, and electricity was still being introduced to parts of the country through the Rural Electrification Act. Radio was cutting-edge technology in the early 1930s. Only 40% of American homes even had a radio, and they were even rarer in vehicles. They were a luxury appliance, large and fragile. Most households didn't have phones. Few owned cars, less than 20%, and very few had free time. The standard work week for most Americans was 48 hours, 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, and many worked longer hours. The concept of weekend leisure hadn't emerged. Auto camping was for the few elite. They would pack canvas tents that were heavy and prone to leaking. Bedding was cotton quilts or extra blankets, and meals were often by an open fire or maybe a portable stove using a cast iron or tin cookware. Water had to be hauled in, heated manually, and used sparingly. The gear was heavy or homemade. There were home-built RVs, usually canvas over a wooden box, but these were crude, heavy, hard to tow, and prone to leaking or breaking. They looked more like horse-drawn wagons from the 1800s than anything futuristic, and they didn't offer much shelter. The Covered Wagon Company made what was considered the first travel trailer, constructed in 1929 of wood with the top made of canvas. The company offered several models of trailers from standard to deluxe, ranging in price from $400 to over $1,200 depending on options. This gleaming silver shape was a glimpse of the future. The Bowlus Road Chief, the very first aluminum travel trailer. And it turned heads not just because of how it looked, but because of what it represented: freedom, ingenuity, and a new kind of American dream. Commercial air travel was brand new. Duraluminum had only been used on a few commercial aircrafts with extremely limited passenger capacities. The Douglas DC-3 hadn't even taken flight. Aluminum was cutting edge, exotic even. It was used in aircraft and military engineering, not in something rolling down a dirt road. And yet, here it was. A travel trailer hand-built by Hawley Bowlus, the very same engineer who supervised construction of the Spirit of St. Louis. He brought aircraft principles to the road: riveted aluminum skin, aerodynamic form, and light weight that let even a modest car tow it. It looked like a spaceship had landed on the frontier. Imagine the impact, rolling into a sleepy town or a national park still unpaved and raw, with this shining bullet gliding silently behind a car. People had never seen anything like it. Hawley Bowlus was a pioneering designer and aerospace engineer, best known for supervising the construction of the Spirit of St. Louis, the plane that carried Charles Lindbergh across the Atlantic. He also built numerous sailplanes. Sailplaning was the extreme sport of the day. In the 1920s, you had to be adventuresome and you had to be willing to crash. A lot. Sailplaning was a dangerous pastime for those helping around the hangar as well as the pilot. Early models were launched using huge elastic straps, stretched tight and released by hand like toy rubber band planes. In the late 1920s, Hawley turned his talent to land travel to enable transportation of Bowlus sailplanes to takeoff sites. The frames were built of hollowed steel tubes welded together to form a bridge-like structure. With the sailplane wings removed, these trailers could carry the fuselage and both wings. Although the loaded trailers were over 30 feet long, they were so light they could be pulled with Model T Ford. Since these soaring trips took place in remote areas, he built a ribbed canvas shelter inside the sailplane trailer frame to have somewhere to stay overnight. Hawley evolved this simple design and developed a number of prototypes using steel tubing covered with stretch aircraft fabric. It was called the Egg. These original canvas trailers had distinctive Bowlus shape and a front door. Hawley and his family took many trips in this canvas trailer, and during one of these trips, someone who saw the trailer asked him if he sold them, and Hawley said yes and made his first trailer sale. In 1934, after producing his first canvas trailer, Hawley took an order for his and the first riveted aluminum travel trailer. With an order in hand, Hawley immediately purchased the aluminum sheets for the exterior and began construction. Thin sheets of riveted aluminum alloy had only recently been used for the wings and bodies of airplanes, and Hawley had used this material for supports in his sailplanes. The aluminum alloy, called duraluminum, was lightweight, and in 1935 he created the first ever riveted aluminum travel trailer. The Road Chief was aerodynamic, lightweight, and crafted entirely by hand. It was a revolution. And yes, for those of you wondering, Airstream's founder actually started by selling Bowlus trailers. He was inspired by Hawley Bowlus and later used the same design in Airstream's earliest model, the Airstream Clipper, simply moving the door to the side. But make no mistake, this is the original. This Bowlus Road Chief was built in 1935, originally estimated to be sold for $1,100. Now this was significant, about 2 to 3 times the cost of a car, half the cost of a house. The average annual income was $1,600. This Bowlus is 21 feet in length and 6 feet wide. It has a dry weight of 1,100 pounds. It was found in a farmer's field in Washington State many decades earlier, serving as the clubhouse for the Long Ears Club, a donkey and mule enthusiast club. It was purchased by my parents in the early 2000s. It had undergone a rough restoration previously. My father estimates this to be sometime in the 1960s, as an old newspaper was used as insulation with the headline, Dag Hammarskjöld Dies, which was in September of 1961. Once the Bowlus was picked up, it was brought back to Canada via the Trans-Canada Highway, beginning its restoration process. Via Bowlus, my father has always been drawn to extremely aerodynamic cars with an unrecognized history. He has been the owner of many Tatras, which has the world's first air-cooled V8 engine and is widely recognized as the precursor to the modern Porsche. Bowlus was the same, the world's first all-aluminum travel trailer and the precursor to all other aluminum travel trailers, including dupes like the Airstream. This particular Bowlus Road Chief was restored by my father, someone who didn't just admire history, but insisted on honoring it. For him, every rivet, every panel, every fitting had to be exactly as Hawley Bowlus intended it. The only modification he did involved making it possible to modernly camp in it, such as adding a toilet, water pump, and battery system. The research level he completed on this restoration, as well as the history he compiled on the Bowlus Company of the 1930s, is fascinating and extraordinarily detailed. Given the rare nature of this Bowlus, it is not as simple as restoration of other automobiles where parts are easily available. One of the first things he did was remove the jealousy-style windows, a late 1960s modification that never felt quite right. In their place, he sourced and restored windows that matched the original 1935 design, down to the frames and latches. It wasn't just about aesthetics, it was about returning the Bowlus to its truest form. Once this restoration was completed, and it was extensive, my family and I took this Bowlus on a cross-country trip. There's a funny kind of symmetry to the Bowlus story, how it began and how it came back to life. In the 1930s, Hawley Bowlus never set out to start a trailer company. He was an aircraft engineer, building gliders and lightweight structures. But one day, while traveling in one of his early trailers, someone stopped him and asked, "Where can I get one of those?" That question was the beginning of the Bowlus brand. Nearly 80 years later, after my father meticulously restored this very 1935 Bowlus Road Chief, we took it on a trip of our own. And just like Hawley, we were stopped. Again and again. People approached us, not just out of nostalgia, but out of wonder. They wanted to know what it was, where it came from, and most of all, where they could get one. It was in those moments, watching people light up the same way they must have in 1934, that the idea took root. Maybe this wasn't just a restoration. Maybe this was a revival, a chance to carry forward the spirit of innovation, craftsmanship, and freedom that Bowlus embodied. Hawley Bowlus didn't build his legacy by chasing trends. He built what he believed in, and the world came asking. And that's exactly how it began for us too. So we're starting here on the exterior, the duraluminum that we talked about before, riveted together, and this is 90-year-old aluminum, so you can just really appreciate how well it's held up over time. We've got the windows, obviously quite a different installation from what we do now, but that same elongated teardrop shape with the door on the front. White wall tires, show off the screen door here. And now we're going to go inside this 1935 Bowlus. So first we have here in the kitchen, lots of storage down below, all aluminum kitchen. Cooktop, we've got a fridge behind here. You've got that all metal facade and lots of storage behind, as well as the shelves up above. And we've outfitted it like you would have in the 1930s. You got tea, coffee, sugar, flour, really beautiful tins. Coffee, tea would be brewing. This Bowlus did originally have a ice box, which was very high end for that time, as well as a kitchen sink, and that would have drained to a bucket on the outside. And it had power, very advanced, and so that could either be plugged in to an outlet or that power could come from the tow car. You could ride in RVs during the 1930s, and so they were marketed as an extension of your car. And you got to remember, during this time, your car might have only been a two-seater car. And there was a place for the power to flow in from tow car to Bowlus, also from radio to flow in from tow car to Bowlus. And then my favorite feature, the phone, to call the tow car. So, you know, if you were in here and you were cooking dinner, you could give a little ring to the tow car. Hello, yes, dinner's ready. And, you know, there'd actually be someone cooking in the Bowlus as you were driving down the road. So very different highway standards of safety. And also that meant that there were people sitting. And so, you know, maybe the kids would be back here. Maybe people would be taking a nap. It was a very different way to travel. You've got that lighting inside, the venting, obviously no air conditioning, different time. But you have really great cross ventilation with the windows. We have, you know, very authentic window treatments, window fabrics. These are similar flooring and seating fabrics that would have been used in the 1930s as well. Magazine holder, clocks, dials, lighting, switch on and off like that. Vents, kitchen fan here. And this kitchen was advertised as a fireproof kitchen because it's aluminum throughout. Got vases down below, these lights, and beautiful wood interior as well. Got the dinette here. We've got Parcheesi set up. We've got storage on this side, as well as a bathroom sink, mirror, porthole. Electrical outlets are original, and then lots of storage here. On the other side is the modified toilet. Like I mentioned earlier, there was not a toilet in the 1935, but there wasn't indoor plumbing in many houses in 1935 as well. You have the bedroom in the rear, 2 beds on either side in that twin configuration. Just really beautiful and special. And then you still have that separate bedroom, so that was always the way it could be, is you could have that separate bedroom with that door. I just swung that out behind me, and that's the modified toilet on that side. So lots of privacy to have a nap. Open up this door again to the living room, and we're back out to this beautifully restored 1935 Bowlus. Today, every Bowlus we build is inspired by this very trailer, with riveted aluminum shells, best-in-class performance, and a commitment to craftsmanship, innovation, and elegance. Thank you so much for joining me on this walkthrough of our family's lovingly restored 1935 Bowlus. It's more than a piece of history, it's the soul of everything we do. If you're curious how we've taken this legacy into the future, make sure to explore our modern lineup at bowlus.com.